Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Best, founder and CEO of Seed and Spark and Film Forward, and we're here to welcome you to our third inclusive leadership conversation today, focused on cognizance. Um, I want to also introduce the wonderful Bill Pugin, who's here with the sign language company. I'm making him sign about his own wonderfulness, who's here today to help us make this event even more accessible. So thank you, Bill, for being here and for joining us for so many of these events. So why do we do these? Well, building off the success of our flagship Behaviors of Belonging curriculum at Film Forward, we've created a new inclusive leadership curriculum that develops the 6 fundamental traits of inclusive leadership, the 6 C's, and you've probably seen this written about in the universe: cognizance, curiosity, courage, commitment, cultural intelligence, and collaboration. And so to celebrate the launch of this new program, we've been hosting a series of these conversations with some of our favorite leaders on how they've utilized one or more of the 6 C's in their journeys to leadership and their practice as leaders. So today we are talking to Sheena Corbett-Worthy. She's a senior leader at Wells Fargo with more than a 20-year career in corporate America, which is no mean feat. And I was introduced to Sheena through our work at Film Forward, and she quickly became a dear friend and a co-conspirator. Sheena's energy, you will see today, to improve employee experience and create more inclusive leadership teams is second to none. So Sheena, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, my friend.
I'm
I
so
truly
delighted to
appreciate
see
this
you.
opportunity. And I'm hopeful that from our conversation, some will get some tidbits and maybe enhance what they already have in place.
Yes, and I may be furiously taking notes while you talk because I always learn a lot from these sessions. So I'm very, very excited to get started. We're going to start slow and simple. Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey to leadership?
Sure. Well, first, I am a wife, a mom of 3 amazing adult kids, born and raised in Wilmington, North Carolina. Recently moved to New York City about a year ago, and probably am one of the few still looking for the snow days. I think those days are long gone, but it's truly been a journey. I've been in the financial services industry for the better part of my career, and still enjoy the space. Um, Over the years, I've navigated towards being a leader. I learned quickly that I like change. I was able to successfully pull together cross organizational teams uh, as part of leading huge efforts. And in recognizing that passion, I also recognize that not everyone loved change as much as I do, as I did. And I was good with motivating and corralling and getting people together. So I started having conversations with my managers, my sponsors, and mentors. And over the years, I got the support I needed to become a leader. So grateful for my sponsors, for sure.
Would it be
So that's
okay
how
if
I got here.
can I just ask a quick question about sponsorship?
Yep.
What role has that played for you?
It's huge. It's very different than a mentor, right? You've got to have someone at the tables that you may not be at, right? Someone who can speak to your capabilities, your passions, and could actually vouch for you and know full well that you'll deliver. And I have amazing sponsors. I also have an amazing personal board of directors that holds me accountable. So both of those have been critical and still are today.
Oh, I love that. Such a succinct way to understand the difference between sponsorship and mentorship. Um, well, so I want to dive in because we only have 30 minutes of your very busy schedule.
What? I thought
Um,
it was all day.
um, so today we're really talking about cognizance and self-awareness in building an inclusive leadership practice. So I'd be curious if you can talk about what role that plays for you.
Yeah, I feel like both are critical. And you need to be mindful of what's going on always. And you also need to be self aware. We all, leaders don't all have the self awareness trait. And you have to practice it and build on it. You will never grow nor develop your followership or fellowship without being mindful and having self awareness. As an inclusive leader, you must be aware of and build a bond with your direct employees, with individuals, with partners. You need to understand and learn what motivates people, yet also be careful not to apply your expectations and your behaviors on others regarding their personality traits and how they approach things. So while some may thrive on direct feedback, you need to ensure that you're delivering feedback, for instance, in a manner that'll be heard, not hurtful. And I think that goes a long way with building that bond and that trust, and that'll allow folks to always be receptive to the conversations and to any feedback or partnerships that you develop and have.
Yeah, I think this really reflects something we heard from Michael last week, that like you have to manage the people you're managing, that they are all individuals and they have individual needs. So your management style has to adjust to
That's
them.
right.
This is something that I have wildly failed at many stages in my leadership career, because I was like, I'm a nice person, it'll be fine. And then this was I was absolutely wrong. And I really resonate with that piece of it, that the individuals you're managing and their sort of specific needs are so
That's
important.
right.
We're doing a lot of thinking about that inside Seed and Spark right now as well.
Yeah. And that's also improve as a leader, right? Because those skills have to continuously be fine-tuned, right? And improved upon. So
you said something about practicing self-awareness. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
yes. So I am a Gemini. I'm going to go a little personal for a
Great, I
second.
love it. Yes. Our audience is going to love this so much. Go on.
And so, as a twin, and a dear friend of mine once called me a triplet, you have to be aware of the moods, the moments, everything that's going on, because you're human. Everyone that you work with, everyone you partner with, they're also human. And it's important that you're aware how you come across, what your delivery is, yet also balance, your brand and being your authentic self. And that's a balancing act, and that takes practice and focus on every single moment of the day. It truly does.
And it's not the same for all
No,
genders and races in the workplace,
no,
is it?
no, it's not. For a Black woman, it's much different, because there have been things that have we've been characterized certain ways, and then it's not true. I mean, I'm one way, another Black woman is a different way, and so you can't say that we're all the same. We don't all look alike. We don't act alike. And so for me personally, I have to always ensure that I'm being slow and thoughtful and mindful of what I'm saying, to whom I'm speaking with, and just to make sure that I'm constantly building the bond and the trust, and not always focusing on me. I need to focus on them.
Seems like a lot of labor, extra labor to do.
It is, but it's also similar to how you manage your personal relationships too.
That's really interesting.
It's one and the same, even though one is, work, professionally, and the other is personally. I mean, you should be doing the same thing. I hope my husband's not listening and he's not going to remind me of this.
Oh, should you? Oh, should you?
But I think it's one and the same. You should be considerate in both spaces.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit, like let's unpack that a little bit about how self-awareness and cognizance plays out in your leadership career.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
there have probably been moments where you have been more or less self-aware, or where you have noticed growth in that. Can you just talk a little bit about those?
So on a daily basis, it's the self-talk and reflection, on the day. I know, fully aware that I have a responsibility to pave the way for others, right? I need to bring others along with me. And I lean on my network. I seek feedback and I share my experiences across the board, and in particular with my son and my daughters. Um,
Mm,
Recognition, at least for me as a Black woman, and support and the sponsorship and opportunities weren't just handed to me. So it's constantly being aware of who I am, what I'm bringing to the table, how I present myself, how I'm recognized. I must continue, and I have continued to build and nurture relationships continuously. Um, and I also am mindful of mistakes that I made early on in my career,
mhm,
such as, early in your career, you're a go-getter. Not saying that you wouldn't be now, but I at least had this terrible habit of expecting, right, certain things of others, like my work habits, my work hours, how I approached things. I expected others to do the same, and I failed miserably. And
mm.
so today I make sure that I'm not placing my expectations, um, the way I work, my traits on others. I'm meeting them where they are, yet making sure that we're meeting, business objectives. That's been critical, and it still is today.
Something you and I have talked about before is this idea of healthy and respected employee boundaries,
That's right. That's right.
right? That
That's right.
is that have to be renegotiated. This thing about I try not to think about my work in terms of like personal relationships, because I feel like that bleeds so quickly into like we're all a family here. But now that you say it that way, it makes a ton of sense that like you're constantly renegotiating boundaries with, I mean, with my kids who are small, with you're constantly renegotiating your boundaries. And of course, why wouldn't that be true in the workplace? I think maybe we have more parameters in terms of like we can build KPIs and we can set working hours, and there's like a little bit more of a rule book we can create, maybe not. But that,
I don't
yeah,
know. It just depends, right? Because it's funny. I rely on my team to keep me straight. Like there's not a time in the day that they don't check me, and I appreciate that. Setting boundaries though, because I've built a bond with my team, and some are East Coast, some are West Coast, some are Central, and when you said limitations, I'm like, oh, I'm breaking that boundary every single day because on any given day we could be working all of the coasts.
yeah.
But it is, you're constantly renegotiating, making sure that that bond is there, that trust is there, because it's important to have that. It's important to make sure that they're heard and they're supported, and they'll be there for you the entire time. It's, I'm telling you, understanding where you are, how you present yourself, how your team feels about you is critical,
Mm.
uh, and very critical to your success as a leader.
This really ties to something that Aubrey Blanche said in our first session around sort of the worst thing that could happen is you're not getting feedback from your team.
I don't have
And
that
I was
problem.
going to say, I don't either. And I know that early on, like I had a really hard time taking feedback as a leader. And over time, I've just been like,
Yeah,
oh, this is great.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
great. I don't even
yeah.
have to agree with it necessarily. It's just like great that it's coming up and we can like work on
For
it
sure.
and figure out where it's coming from. And, like it's just great that it's coming.
That's
Um,
right. There have been times though, Emily, we've had our team calls, they're going to get me. And, again, there are moods, there are moments, there are days. And
yeah,
they were all silent. And I'm like, if we're not going to talk, we can just hang up and go back to work, because I'm not here just to hear myself talk. I want to hear from you. What's going on? What do I need to do? What have I done? Speak up. So, it, the that also quite honestly gets to the inclusion piece, right?
yeah.
Because you don't want to continuously talk to, speak to, you want to hear from them. They have their approaches. It's about being psychologically safe. They can say things and know that it's not going to be held against them, that we're going to talk it through. And everyone's approach is different. It's about creativity. It's about bringing the whole team together.
That's right. And for anyone watching who's not like super familiar with psychological safety, it's got those those four buckets, the baseline of which is belonging safety, right? Then you have learner safety. It's okay for me to try things and fail or ask dumb questions. Then contributor safety, meaning my skills can be used and valued here. And the boss level of psychological safety is challenger safety.
That's right.
Can I raise challenges? Can I give feedback without fear of retribution? And that's the hardest one in every single company across the board. And in part, it's because we inherit power structure.
Yeah.
Like we inherit fear of power structure and fear of hierarchy. And it depends on what it was like where you were before, like there's so much that we all bring into this situation as well.
I will tell you though, not to brag, but I don't think challenger safety is hard for my team. I don't think that's a concern because I am clear that I'm not a know-it-all. I don't know it all. I learn from them. I want to always learn something from someone through all interactions. And so I really focus on making sure that whatever we do, it's a challenge. I may not always agree with it. I may not always like it, but they can bring it forward and it's not a ding against them. It's not going to be held against them. And probably more than likely, we're going to go back to that idea for sure.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting too. We talk a lot about expectation setting. So like you can give feedback and put all the ideas forward as you can. What is your expectation out of the other side of that, right? And what is reasonable to expect, and how do we like break that open and talk about those expectations on either side? Because we had our product team is always like, yeah, I just want to point out that every time we have a sort of open forum for ideas, it's everybody being like, product, build me this thing. And she's like, I can't, my roadmap is my roadmap, right?
Yeah.
So how we solicit that feedback or how we're open to that feedback, and then what is the expectation of actually actioning that feedback is such an important part of the sort of like cultivation of that like ongoing challenger safety, which I think is interesting. So how do you model this for your team and for others?
It goes back to the self-awareness. It goes back to building that bond and trust. Trust is so important to me. It is so important. And I have this conversation often with one of my sponsors. I am not the one that's always, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. Like once it's broken, it's going to take me a minute because I put so much work into building a relationship, into trusting. And I expect the same of others, right? I want them to trust me. And I want them to be open and honest with me. And so as a part of building that trust and that bond, I always encourage the team to speak their mind. What's on your mind? What are you concerned about? What's that idea? How can we bring it forward? How can we tweak it? And I think that goes back to the first question, the cognizant and self-awareness factors, all of that. It's all bundled up. And it's so critical to being that inclusive leader. It's critical to building a team. You build a team, you move to another role. You build a team, you move to another role. And those teams, those people follow you.
Right.
It goes back to the followership and fellowship.
Right.
All of this is connected.
So a couple of things are striking me as you're talking. And one is you're displaying a remarkable level of vulnerability to your team all the time. Like, I'm open to feedback. I want to hear what you have to say. I know they'll come get me. Like, you sort of have this relationship with your team, and trust is a very vulnerable thing to trust someone.
Yeah.
If I can ask an ignorant question as somebody who's never worked inside a giant corporation, like my perception from the movies is always that it's like, it's a political environment. It's a difficult environment. It's a power structure. It's all those things. And yet you are modeling vulnerability and cultivating trust. And I know you, and like, you're doing a ton of emotional labor for your team, and you're very gracious about it.
You think so? I will tell you at the end of the day.
Well, that's kind of my question. Like, what's going on? How are you magic?
We'll talk at 5 o'clock. No, I'm just kidding. I think the only way you can build trust and be trusted is to be vulnerable. I mean, you can't have up this facade and think that it's going to be okay, that you're going to have that the folks that believe in you and follow you and support you. But it's a balancing act for sure, right? So as a leader, you have to balance being vulnerable. You have to balance making sure that you're meeting goals and objectives, and you're trying to also make sure that you're meeting your team halfway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's stressful. Layer that with I'm a Black woman in corporate America,
Yeah.
so it's stressful. Yet it's rewarding. It I do have rewarding days. Like when they my team tells me, what? Do you remember last week when you said this? I'm like, no, I don't remember that. Did you just make up a word? Yep, I just made up a word.
That's fine. That's part of my job. Well, I
Yeah,
guess I'm sort of struck because when I think of the sort of typical kind of corporate leader, there's like a hard edge. And I know that our kind of American idea of power is invulnerability. We're obsessed with superheroes, for crying out loud, right? They're like, you can't kill them. So I'm just sort of curious how you balance that vulnerability with like the very senior role that you also occupy.
one of the things that you and I have chatted a lot about is empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the ways I try to be as empathetic as possible. Put myself in their shoes. I need to make sure that the team always knows that I hear them. Again, I may not always agree with them. You don't have to be mean. You can be direct and not be mean and hurtful.
Sure.
But it's not easy. Again, it is corporate America. We do have we have shareholders, we have goals and objectives, but we're also human. We're people, and people matter, right? That inclusion matters. Making sure that we have diverse thought and approaches can get to the end result much better than someone dictating what to do and how to do it, because it's not always right.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing in the data is that a resilient organization comes from meaningful diversity of thought. And in such a volatile market, the number one thing you want to be building right now is resilience.
That's right.
Because like the innovation is to solve for this new level of volatility ain't going to come from how you used to do it. That's for sure.
That's for sure. That is for sure. We're in a unique time. And the way we used to do things, we can't. But I think, what I'm certain of is, being there for my team, being empathetic, not being a know-it-all, right? And listening, making sure I hear them and making sure they're supported. Not every talent is going to be the right talent, but they're still talent.
Yeah.
And we need to appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It may sound sappy, but it's true.
No, I love it. I adore you. You know this. So we have just a few minutes left. I'd love if you want to. There's sort of two directions to take this. Is either kind of like what, if we haven't already talked about it, are some of the most important tenets of inclusive leadership to you, or if you had a chance to sort of say like, here's my parting wisdom.
Yeah.
Like what are the things that you would want to share?
I think the one thing for sure, I spoke about empathy relative to one of the tenets, but I think, quite honestly, you're going to have successes in your career as a leader, and you're going to have challenges. And for me, when folks say bring your whole self to work, it doesn't apply to us all, and certainly not me as a Black woman. Being me while also trying to ensure I'm meeting goals and objectives, I'm managing my brand, I'm taking care of my team. I do have a life. I spoke earlier about my husband and my kids. Garnering the well-deserved support and recognition is not easy. It won't ever be easy. Nothing worthwhile is easy. However, I do believe having a network and a personal board of directors will assist in managing through the challenges. They will keep you straight. And it'll also help you with understanding the delta between the perceptions and reality.
Mhm. How, if I can ask, do you convene your personal board of directors as a group, or do you use? I don't either. I don't either. But
That's too much, Emily.
so, but you have the sort of group. Are they inside or outside your company primarily?
It's a mix. It's a mix.
It's a mix. I love this. Okay. And do they know that they're your personal board of directors?
Yes.
Okay.
And the expectation is, honesty, truthfulness, 100%.
Yes.
And I've also shared that it's important that you manage your board, right? Every so often you gotta turn it upside down and move people out, right? But you never lose that connection. You retain that connection, and it's a reciprocated, relationship. It's not just all about Sheena.
Yeah.
Although I'd like for it to be.
I called 2 of mine this morning.
You did?
I did. Yes, I did. I called 2 of them on the phone this morning, and we just sort of take. I would say it's a deeply reciprocal relationship in that we take turns workshopping each other's challenges. But I've never described it like that as a personal board of directors, but that's absolutely what it is. I have always talked about it as a coven of witches, but that's sort of specific to who's around me and what I believe are their magical powers. Yours sounds way more professional and cool.
I called you yesterday, so what does that make you?
I mean, I would join. I'd sign up 100%. Sheena, thank you so much for this time. We're going to respect your time and all of our viewers as well and end right on time. This has been so exceptional, and I'm really excited to watch it again and pull out some stuff. And we'll be publishing a blog post with some of these things, and we'll make sure it's super easy for everyone to share. But thank you, Bill Pugin and the Sign Language Company. Thank you, Sheena, so much. And I hope to talk to you again very soon.
Absolutely. Take care. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.